And then 3 hours later, Colin, do you mind doing a present? Very nice. When Bob asked me to do this present on automotive leather, it was a difficult one, to be honest with you, knowing where to start from. I could have dragged up one of my old presents and talked to you about Bentley and leather and all the rest of it. But instead, I tried to go outside of my comfort zone, and I'm going to try and express how we at Bentley feel the leather trade in general may be going. So, you all hear that? That's my only bit of cheesiness in the old school. So, he was in the driving seat. Leather, as we all know, is customer demanded because it comes to the beef market. So if people stop eating meat, we stop producing bovine leather or sheep. So, customer demand comes from the beef market, comes through to the beef market, through to the tanneries, through to the OEMs or second tiers, and then finally through to make excellent product, hopefully. All of these have an impact on cost, obviously, but as soon as you add in the final one, the customer demand, and you drive it back, customer demand, into the product, and then further back into the OEMs and second tiers, into the tanneries, and into the beef market, all of a sudden you come to a bit of a dead stop. Because the customer is demanding more and more and more, and they may all be vegetarians for all we know, and you won't eat beef. So, everything has a cost, pounds, euros, dollars, whatever it may be, and the customer's thinking bigger and better, hopefully for the same cost. So, as we know, meat consumption is the provider of highs on the global market. I'm not going to try and tell you how to suck eggs. It's just a kind of review and hopefully a reminder of where we are and some of the problems that you guys may face. Recently, the EU became the third largest importer of beef in the world, for the first time in the last 25 years. Now, that means there's less hides. So, automotive leather consumption in Europe starts to rise yearly. Some years behind the US growth in leather interiors. As we all know, most of, well, a large majority of USA automobiles have leather interiors, whether it be full grain or embossed, it still comes from the same place. The growth of VAG, BMW, Mercedes and the luxury sector increase in leather consumption. Leather option on luxury vehicles, I know we have and always have had a vast majority of leather options. European tanneries start to produce automotive leather. Now this was around 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So, leather interiors on it's now standard on all luxury sector vehicles in Europe. I say it's standard, there are variations on the theme. Alcantara is being used a little bit now as well, to save leather. I know the Aston Martin in particular has Alcantara headlining. But if you imagine, the leather is optional now in all vehicles from little Fiat 600 numbers. Little Golf Polo, Lupos, you know, they all can have leather. So, emerging markets such as China are demanding leather interiors, which previously they've never done. Growth in the automotive hide demand is predicted to begin slowing down in 2010. But until then, we have a risk. I know Bentley have a severe risk because we are not 100% certain that we can, or our suppliers can continue to source the top quality, full grain hides that we require. And if you imagine, Bentley have increased their hides usage from 18,000 in about 1998, 99 to now annually over 120,000, which is a massive increase. And on top of that, Rolls-Royce are still manufacturing the 18,000 hides, or using up the 18,000 hides that we were using. So there's a delta there of 120,000. Corrected grain leather is considered now to be being used in the middle, lower end sector of vehicles. The graph shows the rise of hide usage in the USA. It's pretty high. It's actually gone off the graph, it's higher than that. Europe, you can see anticipated growth almost double. Korea, Japan, pretty level. China is massive. So you can see the percentage is huge. We all know I'm not going to spend too much time on this on North America, South America, India and China. We know what the high generally are like. UK limited availability of superior height. Don't find my head up. It's a bit weird. We have looked at several companies, and what we do know is it's only basically the size that's an issue with the UK height. Australia, Northern Europe. For us, Northern Europe is the main source of height. Scandinavia, Central Europe. Stock is available in raw and consequently produces the optimum product. At present availability is just sufficient for current requirements. But I'll move on to the next rather than start shouting. Consideration is being given to using highs outside of the current size criteria, which will increase the availability of the current supply. Currently, Bentley have a minimum height size of 4.1 metres, and we've done several investigations. And we know that if we drop to say 3.9, 3.8, the quality is probably quite good, small count. The utilisation improves slightly and therefore kind of compensates. But our average size is 4.85 metres, which is quite high. In emergency situations such as VSE or foot mount, chrome tanning must be considered for a rapid containment supply chain. As a business, we realise that if, for instance, God forbid, foot mount hit Central Europe in a big way, like it did in Britain a few years ago, we know there would be a major issue with height. And we would have to consider finding chrome tannage from the States or elsewhere. As I just said, European height is in decline. There is sufficient supply at the moment, but if trends continue in reported meat consumption, European height availability will decline to a point that it will impact the availability of sufficient premium height for the automotive consumption. Kind of repeats himself a little bit, but I'm trying to get the point over. Bentley must consider that the next decade could see market forces impact on the availability of European height. And we know supply and demand equals cost. Remedies are at hand if people are prepared to take them on, such as animal husbandry and technical solutions. The animal husbandry, I was privileged to see, thanks to the guys at Bridge with some of the animal husbandry that goes on in the Scottish beef tanneries, Scottish beef markets, and it does have a profound impact on the high quality. Now, we can introduce this to all other areas, or as many other areas as we can in Europe. I'm sure that would make a vast improvement to the high quality. The reason being, it will then hopefully reduce consumption. So, from a tannery point of view, I'll leave the slide blank for a second. We at Bentley spend an awful lot of time, invest a lot of time and money investigating various tanneries around the world, mainly around Europe, as you'll see. But these are just some of the ones that we have looked at, we either have looked at or are looking at. I'm not going to make the definition. I think there's about 15 on there currently. Now all of these we've either taken a look at, we are looking at, or we already have as suppliers. There's actually only 2 on there that are our suppliers, and I'll tell you who they are. Vesuvio and Boxmark. So all the others have been in the frame or are in the frame. And one of the concerns that we have as a business, we have a Bentley leather team, there's 5 or 6 of us, with my colleague and partner as well. One of the concerns that we have is that when we go to a supplier, we tell them what we want. So we are demanding what they have to supply to us. The problem is, they think, in a lot of cases, they actually know better than us and send us something slightly different. And off it goes back again, and then send us something else, and then it goes back again. This is an iterative process, we understand that. But from a supply and demand point of view, We are the customer, and we are asking the supplier to give us something. Now, on top of all of the normal characteristics, such as the feel, the lady earlier was talking about, we also have the technical side of things. So, this is like the second part of the presentation. As I said, it was a bit difficult to know exactly what to present. So, Bentley and Automotive leather. This is just a quick slide. We all know leather's been made for hundreds of years. But there's some interesting points that I want to pull out. And I'll start by owning a supple couch provides a rich and elegant look. While multi-cars of distinction, which is where I am, traditionally, I've only the best leather. Well, what is the best leather? Does anybody know? I'm not sure. The reaction that leather evokes from people is touch or smell, as we discussed. Antonio talked this morning about smell and Colin's smell. It's a difficult one. For me, it is an emotive subject, I agree, but for me, nobody, and please don't throw knives at me, at one point in time, Connolly's were perceived, whether it was right or wrong, were perceived by most people to be the experts in leather and produce the finest leather in the world. Whether that's true or not, I'm sure some people have a slant on it. But as a business, that's now gone. We can't point at one person and say, that's the benchmark now. Don't know why that is. I have to ask the question, why has nobody stepped into the shoes of Connolly's? Or maybe several have, but the names are not so commonly known. So, although the natural state of leather is a primary factor when determining quality, other factors such as climate, environment, and even food supply of the animal can also change the look and feel of the leather. Animal husbandry, logging. Small imperfections found on the surface leather are what create originality. Now there's a good one. Given the leather character that cannot be duplicated. Which is interesting because at Bentley we mark everything out. All the natural characteristics, such as scars, bite marks, you don't see them on the car. So, we're not so perfect, maybe. OEM demand based on cost has to equate in a low consumption of premium hides. The percentage of leather in vehicles is reduced. Example, leather mat pockets replace the PVC. I mean, Jaguars, I know, have done this for many years to put leather faces with PVC borders. Leather door inserts and armrests replace with PVC. Certainly not the Bentley. PVC and some teeth panels, which equates to a reduction of over 2 litres per vehicle in some cases. I mean, I do know some cars which have split leather on the headrests. Maybe that's the way to go. So, changing specifications and increasing the usage of corrected grains and corrected grain and embossed on lower quality items will obviously increase utilisation. It's not a way that Bentley would go, but it may be a way for other people to go. And along, as I was saying earlier, with the touch and feel and the smell of leather in Bentley, we have a TL spec, which is, this is a very short excerpt from. The spec is about 14 pages long, something like that. It's enormous. And this is based on full grain fine napper, no snuffing, buffing or correction, chrome free, which is another contentious point I think. Have a maximum thickness of 1.4 mm. 90% usable area. How many hides give us a 90% usable area? Maximum minimum shrinkage. You do have two types of hide at Bentley. You have the standard and the shrink optimised. Standard maximum is 5%, shrink optimised is 3%. Elongation test, attachment characteristics, colour matching, light castness. There's a whole host of other things that they have to acquire. And the one other thing that isn't on here is all our supplies have to be TS16 949 registered. And it says there are variations to the book on shrink optimised and perforated hard quilt. And we also at Bentley have a smell test, in the hope that one day we'll get back to economy smell. I'll gloss over this one. It's basically, this is the criteria that we expect to, and it is quite severe. Obviously, the perfect time is just a piezo panel which displays no discernible flaws. A flaw, minor defects such as a small 10mm heel scar. Now these A flaws are in areas, I'll read it. A flaw will be used, I wrote this but I can't remember it. A flaw will be used in an area of the vehicle which can be viewed by the occupant only if he or she is of unusual orientation within the vehicle. How's that?
That's very much picture.
And that was put into the spec about 10 years ago. That basically means if you have to go like this to see the floor, and it's okay in that area. Good mouthful, isn't it? B floor. Any of the remaining floors not marked up as a name, not perfect. Quite simple. And the B floor will only be used in areas of the vehicle which will never be seen by the occupants. This will include sewing seams or turning over salvage areas, but must not include structural floors such as hole or stamp marks. These will be marked in blue crayon and the C floors, you know. The reason it says blue crayon is because, I don't know who knows, but we use Gerber's cutting system at Bentley. We have eight Gerber cutters, and they use either tape or marker pen, and the crayon, the blue crayon, denotes the C floor. So, we have our own quality samples and masters. And this manual has been developed by several experts within Bentley. It is intended as a guide for all associates working with a hive inspection process, including audit. It also gets sent out to all of the suppliers. So, just a quick overview of how we mark up the cars. This is obviously a door. And what we've done, we've either chalked it or marked it with tape, the specific areas that we're going to use. Does this work? Oh, that's nice. So, the area here, we have defined as being an A floor. So, because when the doors open or close, you can barely see the edge there. And underneath, because it's on an angle, you can barely see the leather there also. The white lines are for when we strip it down, and all the areas on the other side of the white line will then become B floors. Everything else you see is perfect. So there's a lot of perfect areas. The information then is transferred digitally using the Gerber pattern development system. So this is just an indication of the levels of inspection. Most of the little tape marks you see are insect bites or very small scars, although I have to say we don't see many scars, but mainly insect bites. The areas down the side are all marked out because of the waviness of the hive when it sits on the machine. Obviously the pleats are marked out because it affects the cutting and the shape of the panels. And resulting in protection. And I think I'm slightly biased, but I think the car is absolutely magnificent what it's doing. These are some of the various techniques on the seats. We have indenting and quilting of the insert panels, embroidery and bossing, and then the final interior, as you can see. That's the new 08 model year GT Speed. I think that's now 600 brake horsepower for those that are technically minded. 202 miles an hour. Fantastic. So, chrome tanning. I don't think you need to tell anybody about chrome tanning, I'm sure you all know. But apparently we only use chrome free. Now, why do we use only chrome free? Well, same as you guys, we had the scare about chrome in the hives. We thought, rightly or wrongly, that by 2007 we would be having to remove the chrome from the leather. So in 1998, we started using Grand Prix. Coincidentally, it was about the time when Volkswagen took over. And brings back some bad memories, because it was at the time companies were trying to supply it and failed quite miserably, as everybody knows. Struggling pretty badly, which is when we went to Boxmark in Austria. And the funny thing about Boxmark in Austria is they can only produce Grand Prix because their legislation in the country doesn't allow them to produce anything else. So we ended up with Grand Prix leather. Packaging, just a small one. The integrity of the packing obviously has an impact on the quality of the hide. Presence of documentation and the cleanability of the packaging. And also recyclability. It only says cleanability, but important for us is also recyclability of the packaging. This is the laboratory, I don't know if everybody recognises it. We do have stringent criteria, as the TL spec shows, and therefore we expect our suppliers to be able to carry out all, most if not all, of the tests that we require. And this is a particularly well-equipped lab with nobody with me. Investment. This is a slide from one of our suppliers currently, and they have invested €500,000 in the mixing plant. And I've seen it and it's quite impressive. And one of the reasons it's so impressive is because it controls and it's got traceability of the mixings of all the ingredients, is the word I'm looking for. Obviously the quantity, the viscosity and the weight. So this is the type of thing that we are looking for with suppliers. So, consumer influence. As we know, Mark, the guy that's in the consumer stuff, consumers are more aware of leather and looking for real value for money. And it's no different in the motor industry, I think we all agree. If we go out and buy a car, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a nightmare looking at the leather seats. It's terrible. And the expectation is to differentiate between low sector and high sector products. The premium product demanded on premium luxury vehicles, which is what Bentley did, full grain, natural leather. What I would say is, we have investigated analyzed, semi-analyzed new looks and stuff, and we came to the same conclusion that it is actually very difficult to maintain. And we felt that at this stage it would be challenging to make, so we tried to stay clear of it. Should we know it that? So, products. Just a quick view of the products. Bentley Arnage, been going now since 1998, still in production. Fastest four-door production car in the world. It was then. And again, the Arnage R, which is the equivalent of Rolls-Royce type. Bear in mind this car was also Rolls-Royce before it was only Bentley. As you can see, magnificent interior. The amount of hides we use on these cars is somewhere in the region of 19, so it's quite substantial. An average size of, as I said, 4.85. Well, Contier, and the top spinning. Again, beautiful car, magnificent seats, absolutely fabulous. Unfortunately discontinued, but the skills still remain for the next generation. And here we go. It says the dream continues. It's the future. But if anybody knows Peter Kay. So, Continental Flying Spur. This is now the fastest four-door production car in the world. These are nice pictures before I get onto my speech. Finally, the interior of Continental GT. As it says, main hide magnolia, secondary hide Loxley, and bird's eye maple veneer. Yours for the princely sum of £130,000. Check this way. Okay, that's pretty much the end of that. But there's just a couple of things I'd like to talk about. Already mentioned what Antonio spoke about this morning, the economy and the leather smell. We did have an afternoon debate just talking about smells of leather, I'm sure. I know we spend a lot of time, put a lot of effort in trying to get the correct smells for the automotive leather. Tony? Right. Mentioned the cross-linking and the link lock and chrome hide availability. And it's an interesting one. You said that your role would affect you to remove the chrome. We at Bentley are always considering different types of leather and are now investigating the whys and wherefores, the gains, the losses, and chrome leather. Maybe we go back to it. Interesting. It'd be quite a radical decision because it would go against VW Group. Nevertheless, if you do the work properly, you never know. And it might even open their eyes a little bit. So, I come to speech. I'll try and keep it short. One of the ones is, as you know, we talked about Colin a few years ago. They were the one supplier that supplied quality, high, whether we all believe that or not at the moment is another matter, I think. Certainly, up till 1995, they were the best in the industry. They supplied the likes of Rolls-Royce and Bentley, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Jaguar, to name but a few. But who wears the crown now? Because they're the supplier of the world's finest hide. Open question. So, why is it so important to have people like Colin? My opinion is it's a benchmark to aspire to. We need people in the leather industry and in the automotive industry that we look up to. I like to think that other OEMs look to Bentley as a benchmark. So, who do we look to for a benchmark in leather? Okay. One final one, and it's the longest one. I'll try and keep it short as I can. At Bentley, we strive to do all we can to reduce waste being manufactured. We spent time and money again investing in cutting equipment, and over a period of 4 years, we reduced our hide usage by something like 22%, just by investigating the little things, such as a couple of years ago, all our hide was brought in on rolls. That's how Colin supplied them. Now, we have them in on horses, which saves us 5% of hide, because we don't have to trim off the ends. So the ends are getting damaged. Simple one. And if Bentley can attain 17 or 23%, between 17 and 23% hide saving, just by improving cutting methods, how many hides we save in the large cutting industries? I imagine quite a lot. And for me, what it's about is doing the correct benchmark work, getting out there into the forum and having a look at what's available. We know now, Liz has done some investigations, we know now that there are some competitive cutting equipment out there, actually better than what we've got. The question is, do you spend the money to replace, or do you live what you've got? Because you've already got it and it's there. Like you say, give the way go. So, Simon will say, because you've got it, you make use of it, and you don't necessarily replace when you should. But I think we should all, as a business, start benchmarking other people's activities. For me, I know that clip pressing, for instance, will never ever come back into Bentley because of the work that we've done. We spent 18 months travelling around looking at various cutting equipment. And I'm not trying to sell anybody an automated cutting machine, but what I'm trying to do is initiate some activity that reduces the amount of pies that we have to use in order to maintain the industry. Okay? Thank you very much.